Up next is the App of the Week segment. This is a segment dedicated to app demonstrations. Should you have an app that you would like to demonstrate for our listeners, feel free to send us the recording of such an app demo to contact us at blindandroidusers.com. And now for this week's episode, here's your App of the Week.
And now we move on to our App of the Week section, where Warren demonstrates a text-to-speech engine, Speecx.
Hi, Warren here for Blind Android Users Podcast, and for episode 230 App of the Week, this is demonstrating a TTS engine simply called Offline TTS. Upon finishing installation of the app, however, the icon becomes Speecx, S-P-E-E-C-X, or if you're my screen reader, it becomes Speecx. For today's demonstration, I'll be utilizing my Pixel 9 Pro XL running Android 16 Beta 4 and TalkBack 15.2. I am on the home page, that is on the play page of the app, and will now navigate my way to the about and hear about the description, and then come back and hit that install button. Let's now tap on About.
About this app. Heading: Google Play Store. Offline text-to-speech. Details: easy text-to-speech export and screen reader, supporting over 32 languages. Speecx is a free speech synthesis TTS dubbing software. Support English, Japanese, French, Russian, German, Hindi, Italian, Thai, Korean, Spanish, Catalan, Malay, Arabic, Danish, Dutch, Finnish, Icelandic, Norwegian, Polish, Portuguese, Romanian, Swedish, Turkish, Welsh and some offline languages for free use, and provide a variety of natural readers to choose from. Speech service enables applications to read on-screen text aloud. For example, it can be used for Google Play Books to read aloud your favorite books. Google Translate, speak the translation aloud so you can hear the words pronounced. TalkBack and accessibility apps that provide spoken feedback on the device. Supports IPA to add a mark equals IPA after the word, such as present equals pres or present equals present. Download and share any text-to-audio MP3 AAC FLAC. Powers the AI Speechify engine for many other apps in the Play Store. How to use. To use the Speecx text-to-speech feature on your Android device, go to Settings greater than Language and Input greater than Text-to-Speech Output. Choose Speecx as your engine of choice. You can add background music for mixing. Download the text-to-audio file to your device and share it. Download and use for free. App info. Version: January 24, 2021. Updated on November 2, 2024. Downloads: 10,000 plus downloads. Download size: 23.03 megabytes. Required OS: Android 5.0 and up. In-app purchases: $0.49 minus $8.99 per item. Offered by AI Developer. Released on March 2nd, 2023.
And that's both the description and the history of the app. I'll now navigate my way back to the installation page and tap on that install.
Play Store. About this app. Heading: Install. Verified by Play Protect. Pending. Navigate up. Button. Offline text-to-speech. 1%, 37%, 47%. Installing. Open. Button. In list.
We are now done with the installation and sitting on that Open button. I'll go ahead and tap on that Open.
Speecx. Web view. Chars 47. Out of list. Login request. Log into your account to experience premium speakers.
We're now on a screen that talks about logging in to experience those premium voices. I do want to mention here, though, that this is not a very responsive TTS engine. In other words, it's not something like Vocalizer or Acapella, but it's not too bad. So if you're a TTS junkie like me and you want to add this to your collection, then of course you can go ahead and install this. I do want to mention also that it's important to, first of all, download one of the offline voices, because if you choose a premium or plus voice without paying the subscription, it will only play like a sample and then it will quit on you and you'll not be able to choose a different TTS engine because it will keep telling you to log in or something to that effect. So the first thing to do is to be sure to install the offline and then choose it as your default. And so if you use a high quality and it times out on you, it automatically defaults to that offline. Now, let's look at what we have here in the middle of the phone. We've got a couple buttons. The first button is
Try offline button.
try the offline, or to the right of that
Login button.
is the login. I'm going to tap on the try offline, of course, where we could find those offline voices that we could download for free.
Try offline button. Speecx button.
We're now in a window containing the offline voices. In other words, all the voices you see here are offline voices. But first, you want to make sure you download, and then after downloading, select the one you want as your default, so that even when you choose a premium voice that you're not subscribed to and it times you out, it goes back to the default that is the chosen offline voice. Let's take a look at some of those offline voices. It's a combination of both English and some other languages, so you be sure to select the one that corresponds to your language. Starting from the top, here are some of the voices, and I'll play some of these samples at random.
Lydia 9.3 megabits. Woman free.
Now, to the right of each of these voices, be it the free voices where we are right now, or when you are in a window containing the premium and the plus voices, to the right of each of those voices are two buttons. There's the play button, and to the farthest right is that download. And after downloading, that button on the farthest right becomes the select. In other words, you want to select the voice that you've chosen or downloaded. Let's go ahead though and hear the sample by tapping on that play. So I'll move my finger now to the right.
Play.
This is an
Showing
example of
items.
English speech synthesis.
And to the right of that,
Unlabeled.
we hear unlabeled.
Detected image. The word down is written in large bold green letters.
And that
Text
means
down.
this is the download button. And then below that, we have another sample voice.
William 9.3 megabits.
That's
Male.
a William
Free.
voice, and it's free to the right of that.
Play.
This is an example of English speech synthesis.
I'm going to scroll down and see what other voices we have.
Dancy 81.5 megabits.
Let's take a
Woman
listen.
play.
これは日本語音声合成の例です。
I don't know what that language is. It's probably Chinese. I'm going to scroll down.
Show Sunny 22.4 megabits. Play.
이것은 음성 합성의 법례이다.
All right, well, you got the drift. Let's sample one more.
Show Eileen. Play.
呢一條粵語語音合成嘅範例。
Yeah, definitely that's Chinese. Let's try one more.
Lilia 15.7 megabits. Woman play.
Это пример синтеза речи на русском языке.
Well, you got the drift. So now I'm going to navigate back toward the top and tap on that Lydia.
Lydia 9.3 megabits. Woman free.
Here we have Lydia, and remember to the right is a sample, the play the voice sample player, and then to the right of that would be the download. So I'm going to move right
Play.
and then right again.
Unlabeled.
Tap.
Ads. Watch ads to obtain.
Tapping on that download, we're being told to watch an ad to obtain that voice. And in the middle of the phone, we've got a couple buttons.
No button.
There's no, that means I don't want to download it and I don't want to watch an ad, or
OK button.
the OK button. And I do want to warn you here that when you tap on that OK, you're going to be getting a full screen ad, and it's mainly a video ad. At this point, once I tap that OK button, I'm going to pause it so we don't hear all that noise in this recording. So I'll now tap on that OK.
Amazon shopping. Amazon.com. Spend less. Smile.
There we go. It's done with the ad, and it seems like my ad is an Amazon app, which I already have. And I do want to mention that once you go back to the previous screen, that voice is already installed. So now I'll navigate back.
Speecx. Lydia. Woman. Free.
So now we're back to where the free voices are. And Lydia is already downloaded. And to be sure that it's downloaded, once I navigate to that button that says down, which is the unlabeled button. And by the way, you can label that if you want. These buttons are labelable. In other words, you can label them. So if I move right,
Play.
there's the play button, and one more right.
Unlabeled. Detected image. A green button with the word select in white text. Text.
There we
select.
have the select button. So in other words, if I tap on that, I'll be selecting Lydia as my default offline TTS voice for Speecx. I'll tap here to select that.
Lydia. Woman. Free. Play. Selected.
There we go. We are told that Lydia has been selected as my offline voice in the event that I'm using a trial of some sort, playing with a premium or plus voice, and when the time runs out, it will automatically default to that offline voice using Lydia. Now we have some buttons here, and near the top left we have the back button,
Button.
and then moving right,
Roles.
we hear roles. In other words, if I tap here, it'll take me to where I could see a combination of both the premium, the plus voices, as well as those free voices. And then below there,
Language search. Out of list.
we have the language search. In other words, if you tap here, it'll take you to where you could search for the language that you're after. And below that, we'll have the voice that is selected.
Lydia. Woman. Free.
And now at the bottom, we have some buttons, and those primarily are the media controls like play, rewind, and all of that. So starting from the bottom left,
Rewind. Button.
moving
Out of
right,
list. Play. Button.
and
Fast forward. Button.
that's all that we have. I'll go back.
Speecx. Web view. Chars 47.
We're now in the menu I now, and starting from the top left, we've got,
English. USA. Lydia.
we have English USA Lydia. If you tap here, it'll also take you to where you could see the voices, both premium and free ones as well. To the right of that,
Music. Music.
we hear something saying music, and basically it's like a background music for those of you that have like YouTube projects and you'd like to use one of those for your project. And I'm not interested in that. I'm not going to play any of those. I'm afraid I don't want Google to kind of hit us for copyright. So I'm not going to go into that. Let's move on down and see what else we have.
This is an example of English speech synthesis. Edit box.
We come across an edit box where we have the text that Lydia was reading. You could change that to whatever text you want if you want a longer text. And then in the middle of the phone toward the bottom, that is like 3/4 down in the middle, we've got a couple buttons. The first one is a delete. In other words, delete that text that is in there.
Button. Detected. Icon. Delete. Image.
And then to the right of that
Button.
is the Add Roll button.
Detected. Icon. Person. Image. A white icon of a person with a plus sign above them.
In other words, if you tap here, you're going to be taken to those areas where you could see the voices and all of that. And it is not labeled, but you can label that. That's the Add Roll button. Now below that though, we have two more rows. And the first row we come to are buttons. And below that row, we have tabs. Here are the buttons found in the first row.
Button.
That simply says button,
Detected.
but that's
Icon.
the play button.
Image. A green
And
play button
then
icon
to the
on
right
a dark
of
gray
that
back button.
is the
Unlabeled.
stop button. And
Detected.
then to the
Icon.
right of that,
Stop button.
we have another unlabeled
Detected
one.
image. A
but
green
that
icon with
is
3
the button
horizontal
that
sliders.
says settings.
Button.
And that last button there is
Detected
the
image.
export
A green square
button.
with a curved arrow pointing to the right and a wavy line inside represents a process or workflow. Text J.
Those are the buttons that we have. And now below that though, we have the tab, and we have 3 tabs at the bottom left,
Home. Tab.
and
Selected.
to the
1 of
right,
3. Storage. Tab.
storage,
2
and
of 3.
the last item here on the bottom right
Account. Tab.
is the account button. So before I bring this to a close, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the important buttons here, and that would be the settings, the add role, and the account button. Let's start though with the add role, which is the button in the middle that is to the right of the delete button.
Button. Detected. Icon. Person. Image. A white icon of a person with a plus sign above them.
And that's the add role. Tap here.
Roles. Button.
We are now
Showing
in the
items 1 to 8 of
roles. In
131.
other words, we are where we could see a bunch of voices, both the free plus and premium voices.
Gregory. Male. Plus. In list.
And of course, remember to the right of each of these are the play and the download or select buttons after the voice has been downloaded.
Play.
Let's hear a sample of Greg.
This is an example of English speech synthesis.
I'm going to scroll down at random and find one.
Sally. Woman. Plus.
Here's Sally, is a plus voice.
Play.
This is an example of English speech synthesis.
Now I'm going to find a premium voice.
Kimberly. Woman. Premium. Showing items 12
Here's
to 20 of 1.
Kimberly, that's a premium.
Play.
This is an example of English speech synthesis.
Let's find another one.
William. 9.3 megabits. 6.2 megabits. Male. Free.
That's a free one. There's no need for us to sample that. We've seen that above.
Sally. Woman. Premium.
Let's go ahead and try Sally.
Play.
This is an example of English speech synthesis.
Let's try one more.
Nicole. Woman. Premium. Showing items 8. Play.
This is an example of English speech synthesis.
There we go. One more and we'll be done.
Arthur. Male. Plus. Play.
This is an example of English speech synthesis.
Well, you got the drift. You can play with all of these as you wish. Let's go back.
Speecx.
And now let's go ahead and take a look at the settings, and that's the second to the last button toward the bottom there. Those buttons I mentioned, the 4 buttons.
Button.
And it says unlabeled, but of
Detected
course,
image. A
it's
green
the
icon
settings,
with 3 horizontal.
and I'll tap.
Speecx. Button.
Tapping on
Detected
that,
icon,
we
left.
are now in the settings, and we're being told the left button, that's the top left, that's the back button.
Speech setting. Lydia, English, USA.
And we hear Lydia, English, USA, and if you tap here, it'll take you to the list of voices again. Moving on down.
Volume.
Volume.
Speed. Pitch. Background music. Screen reader. Setting. Keep screen on while speeching. Switch. Off. Show rename dialog after export speech is completed. Switch. On. Export format. Button. MP3. M4. FLAC. Reset. Button.
And that's the last item in the settings. I'll go back.
Speecx.
And now, before we bring this to a close, let's go ahead and take a look at that last tab at the very bottom. Remember, there are 3 tabs at the bottom. We got that home, storage, and account. I'll tap on the account.
Account. Account.
Tapping on accounts, here's what we have.
Sign in up.
Signing in / signing up. Moving on down.
Subscription.
Subscription, in other words, the different subscription models. Let's look through, and then we'll come back and take a look at what these subscriptions are.
Daily TTS usage. Help and FAQ. About.
And that's the last item there, the about. Let's now, though, go ahead and tap on that subscription, see what we have.
Subscription.
Tap.
Speecx. Button.
Tapping on subscriptions, Here's what we got.
Unlimited reading. More exports. Remove ads. Subscription plans. Minus 30%. In list. Monthly. $6.29. $8.99. $6.29 per month for the first 2 months, then $8.99 monthly.
Wow. Let's move to the next.
Minus 30%. Weekly. $2.79. $3.99. $2.79 per week for the first 2 weeks, then $3.99 weekly. Subscription services auto-renew at the end of billing term unless explicitly canceled by the user. Out of list. Subscription information. You have not logged in yet.
I am told that I'm not yet logged in, so I don't have the subscription information.
Sign in up button.
And we come across that signing in/signing up again, moving on down.
The number of characters that can be used per day. Usage. Free. Premium. Offline voice. Square root. Square root. Read premium voice. 4,000. Square root. Download or TTS. 1,000. 60,000. Read plus voice.
Well, you got the drift. In other words, these are some of the subscription comparing the free and the subscription models. I'll now go back.
Speecx. Subscription.
And now, before we bring this to a close, let's go ahead and navigate our way to the talkback menu and to the TTS settings and choose that Speecx TTS and use the linear voice, which is the default. And in the event that you decide to log in or sign up and log in and you are using a premium or plus voice, and when you run out of credit or whatever the trial is, it will automatically default to that linear voice. I'll now navigate to the talkback menu.
Talkback menu. Text-to-speech settings.
And tap.
Text-to-speech output. Preferred engine. Speech recognition and synthesis. Preferred engine. Navigate up.
And now I'm going to go find and tap on Speecx, or if you're my screen reader, Speecx.
Radio button. Not selected. Speecx text-to-speech engine. 8 of 18.
And I'll tap.
Attention. This speech synthesis engine may be able to OK button.
Using Speecx text-to-speech engine. Preferred engine. Radio button. Selected.
There we go. So I'm going to go out of here.
Apps. Home. Open document reader. Speech rate.
There's a speech rate.
Speech rate 1. Speech rate 191. Speech rate 254%. Scribeam.
As you can hear, it's not very clear. It's like I got fluff in my ear type of TTS engine. But if you happen to be a TTS junkie like me and you want to add one more to the collection, then Speecx or offline TTS, Speecx, as my screen reader calls it, is one of those things that you may want to add to your collection. Thanks for listening, and give Speecx, offline TTS engine a test. Thanks for listening.
So thanks for that, Warren. Any other reflections you have after putting that together for us?
Well, this is a very great, I mean, not a great app, but if you happen to be like me and Karine, you know, that is this TTS app junkies, for example, and you want to add one of these to your collection, it should be something you should add. But I do want to talk a little bit about the process of maybe adding another or, free voice, which I showed, but how you switch to it is you have to first go into the TTS settings. So, if you've made it the preferred, for example, and using a free voice, like I said, you have to use the free one, because if you don't and you choose like a premium one, you're not going to be able to access your stuff. So don't do that. unless you've subscribed to that ridiculous subscription model. We were talking about subscription models earlier, and this one is absolutely ridiculous. Like $6 or something a month or whatever. I could never see me doing that. But so, yeah, you want to make sure that you've chosen one of those free ones or free voices. If your language supports it, then if you want to add another one or switch to a different one, for example, I'm going to be using William here. All right, so now I'm going to turn on my phone here.
9:58 a.m.
There we go. So I'm going to go to my TTS area.
Talkback menu. Text-to-speech setting. Text-to-speech output.
And
Navigate
so
up.
I'm using that Speecx TTS right now. And so I'm going to go to the TTS settings, which is just to the right of the preferred.
Preferred engine. Settings.
Okay.
TTS setting. Button. Out of.
And so when you are here, you want to switch to a different TTS engine, for example.
Preferred voice. Lydia, English, USA.
So you tap there.
Roles. Button.
And
showing
we got
Lydia. Woman. William. 9.3 M. Olivia. Woman. Plus.
So you don't want to do that. You want to choose the one
Play.
that is
Lydia.
that's
Woman.
a free one.
William.
So
9.3 MB.
and
Play. Unlabeled.
I have William, and I'm
Detected
not sure
image.
that I've
Word
downloaded it.
down is written in large.
Yeah, so I have not downloaded that, because if I had downloaded it, it would have just shown the two. But so I'll have to download that, and then I will choose it as my default. So if you have downloaded both earlier, then all you need to do is just hit that to select it to be your default.
TTS.
And that's how it works. But then another thing that Karen and I were talking about is that it doesn't seem to adjust your speed. And I'm not sure if that has to do with logging in, because it does have like the speed in the settings. However, it wasn't activating for me. So the workaround that I found is that you have to turn on the speed rate to the maximum in this TTS settings area.
Open application.
So, for example,
Text to speech up. Speech rate. Speed at which the text is spoken.
so see,
Speech rate. Value 90.
so if I just keep going on,
Speech.
I'm going to put it.
Speech rate. Value 300.
I'm going to put it at.
Speech rate. Value 540. Speech rate. Value 590.
Okay.
100%.
So
100
now
recent apps.
I could
App
also
plans.
go to the accessibility speech rate control.
Characters.
Oops.
Speech rate.
And then
Speech rate 600%.
yeah, so
Speech rate 600%.
that's how you probably could just adjust that. But other than that, it's not very. It's just a collector's item, and the voices that Karen and I were talking about. One has to pay for those, and I think they're kind of a little bit too expensive. I wanted to try it for a week, but I think a week was what, $2 something. I may try that and see, but I don't believe you could have those voices offline. But I'll try it to see if I'll get it offline, but I'm positive they are not offline voices.
And that voice you were just using then, Warren, was that one of the offline ones or an online one?
No, that's an offline. That's a free offline voice. There are a couple of them, William and Lydia. Yeah. So those are your offline voices. In English, we have a couple of those, and then other languages I don't know, but there were a few of those free ones there for other languages that I saw. So, but always you want to make sure that you've downloaded that first, and then you've chosen it as your default in the event that you are going to be trying an online and then you run out of credit, then it'll default back to that offline voice variant.
Yeah. And the other thing to say about that engine as well, I think, and I know we would never record demos at the speed that Warren set that latterly, and we have lots of different abilities on Android, but for a very advanced user, even that's not particularly fast, is it?
No, a lot of people have their speed, like breakneck speeds. I don't use my phone like that, but I know some of my buddies do. You could hardly understand what it is, but that's not me. And so if you set this speed like I just had, you want to make sure that you bring it back down to earth before you switch to another TTS, or if you switch to another TTS, you probably wouldn't understand a thing. It will be so fast, it's not even funny.
And how responsive are they?
Well, like I said, they're not very, it reminds me of the, so for example, see.
Folder, ebook read, home screen, folder, file browsers, folder, Google, folder.
So I
it's
think
hard
it's,
to tell.
Yeah.
Because you don't have haptics. So if you've got haptics, it's sometimes a little bit easier to tell how responsive they are from when you're
see,
typing. But
I don't do those, and I think I would put that on the category or the level of the Sarah Player voices, for example. I think that's where they will be at.
No, I think they could be better. They are better, I think, because I have one of the Sarah Proc voices, and I think this one is slightly more responsive. Well, of course, the clarity of those Seer voices is better, but the responsiveness here, I think, is better. It's maybe slightly less than Vocalizer. However, I don't know how stable it is. This is the first thing, because I used it for maybe a few minutes, nothing more. And the second thing, which some TTS engines have issue with, especially Google TTS, is the how they deal with long text. So some TTS engines, mainly Google TTS, to be honest about this, has this issue of stopping for a bit when it encounters long text. So this should be, I think we should test this. I didn't pay attention to this point. I had to test this before, but I didn't. If it's able to deal better than Google TTS with long text, this could be a plus point. Well, I don't see me using the TTS engine. The quality of the offline voices is not that good. And even if the subscription, there are much better things. And the deal breaker for me is the online stuff. So even if I'm stupid enough to go for this subscription plan, which is, I think, so expensive, I don't do it just because of the online thing. Because, you're a screen reader user. You have to get the most responsive engine, and when you are dealing with an online engine, I don't think that until now it's capable of being as responsive as the offline voice. So don't think about it if it doesn't give you the ability to install offline versions. So I think this should be a deal breaker for most, if not all people. So yeah, this is the important issue, I think.
Yeah, Karen, you made a valid point there. I haven't tried it with long text. However, what I noticed is that if you're reading something on the internet, for example, an online article, for example, whenever it comes across a link, it uses a different voice indicating a link, and it'll use a different voice, or different intonation or whatever. But yeah, that's how it works. I try to read a book with it, and I tapped the continuous read, and it wasn't bad. And I think you're correct. It's a little bit more responsive than the Sarah Play voices, but then its pronunciations could be a little bit atrocious. For example, I'll show you what I'm trying to say here. Let's see what I have here.
Device unlocked.
Okay. So I have like a folder here called Bible versions, and I think it will say Bible virgins. I thought that's what it said. I'll let you guys hear it. Let's see.
Home screen 1 of folder Bible versions 4 or more items.
You see? So
Folder
what?
browsers 4 or folder Bible versions 4 or more items.
Yeah, so it's kind of pronunciation is not all that great.
You might want to do that again and slow it down because you're still at your top skis. So maybe
Okay,
just
maybe
demonstrate
slow
that
it down and see
Yeah,
what
slow back to where it
happens.
was because we're still at the not very top speed of that TTS engine, which will be too fast for.
Speech rate 107%. Speech rate
Okay,
90%.
so now I'm
that's
gonna
fine.
see.
Home screen folder Bible versions 4 or more items.
Yeah, see, it says like Bible versions.
Folder
What?
browsers.
It is virgins actually.
Yeah, so
Even if you
listen
slow it
again.
down.
See,
Folder Bible versions.
see.
Folder Bible versions 4 or more.
Yeah, so and then what I notice is that sometimes when it sees the word app, it kind of spells it out for some reason. It reminds me of the what were those voices that we had that was in beta. Oh gosh, I don't remember. Amazon took them over from the Bright Technologies. What was the name of that TTS engine?
Ivana.
Yeah, Ivona. Oh, yeah, exactly. So it will say, app for, for app instead of saying app. So yeah, there's some problems like that.
And just while we're on silly subscription pricing, I imagine Sally and Karine, you probably know this already, but this has nothing to do with TTS or this feature, but I think it's funny. So ChatGPT Plus, $20 a month. Everybody know how much GPT Pro is?
100 something.
I don't want to know. How much is it?
200.
Is that an annual subscription?
No, it's a monthly subscription. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. Like, if you want silly subscriptions, let's look no further than ChatGPT Pro, 200. I think for me it was pounds. No, it was in dollars. It is in dollars, I think, or at least on the website it was. So 20 US and then 200. Crazy.
Yeah, but it's meant to be used in enterprise stuff, so I think it's reasonable. Well,
it's a personal plan. It's a personal plan. You can switch to business plans and pay even more. You're up to.
Okay, I thought that it's also related to business.
Who's going to have that moolah to be? I mean, you're paying $200 a month. That's like a quarter of your mortgage.
Even for GPT Plus, that's a bad news for me. Having $2 more.
What, 20 a month?
Like, you said 22?
20, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 20 for me. Like,
yeah, 20. Yeah, 20 for Plus and then 200 for Pro. Wow. Crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought I'd entertain everyone with that subscription silliness.